There is a quiet kind of loneliness that many people carry without ever speaking about it. It is not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. Millions of adults today struggle with something that seems simple on the surface, making friends. Yet for them, it feels like one of the hardest things in the world. This is not a story about being antisocial. It is a story about the psychology hiding beneath the surface, the invisible walls that keep people from connecting, even when they desperately want to. To understand why some people struggle to form friendships, we have to go back to the beginning, to childhood. Psychologists have long studied something called attachment style, the emotional blueprint we develop based on how our early caregivers responded to us. A child who grew up with inconsistent affection, criticism, or emotional neglect often learns a painful lesson early on, that closeness is unpredictable and sometimes even dangerous. This child grows into an adult who unconsciously expects the same pattern in every relationship. They crave connection, but their nervous system treats it as a threat. This is why some adults freeze up in social situations, not because they dislike people, but because a part of them is still protecting a wound from long ago. Even a simple invitation to meet for coffee can feel loaded with hidden risk, because somewhere underneath, the mind is bracing for disappointment before it has even happened. This pattern often continues quietly for years, unnoticed even by the person living through it. They may excel at work, appear confident in public settings, and still feel a strange hollowness whenever real closeness is offered. Then, there is the weight of social anxiety, a condition far more common than most people realize. For someone with social anxiety, entering a room full of strangers is not simply uncomfortable. It can feel like standing on a stage under bright lights with everyone waiting to judge every word. The brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, becomes hyperactive, treating ordinary interactions like danger. Heart rate rises, thoughts spiral, and the simplest question, "What do I say next?" becomes paralyzing. Over time, many people with social anxiety begin avoiding social situations altogether, not because they do not want friends, but because the anticipation of rejection feels unbearable. What makes this even harder is that social anxiety often hides behind a calm exterior. A person might smile and appear perfectly at ease while internally running constant checks on their tone, their posture, and the reactions of everyone around them. This invisible effort drains energy, which is why many socially anxious people leave gatherings feeling depleted, even when nothing outwardly difficult happened. Rejection sensitivity plays a powerful role here as well. Some individuals are wired, often through early experiences of being excluded, bullied, or dismissed, to interpret neutral situations as personal rejection. A friend who does not reply quickly to a text is not simply busy. In their mind, they are being ignored. A joke that falls flat becomes proof that they are unlikable. This heightened sensitivity creates a cycle of self-protection. To avoid the pain of rejection, people withdraw before anyone else has the chance to reject them first. Ironically, this self-protective silence is often mistaken by others as disinterest, which then makes new connections even harder to form. Over time, this cycle becomes self-fulfilling. The fewer chances someone takes, the fewer positive experiences they collect to challenge their fear, and the more convinced they become that rejection is inevitable. Low self-esteem often sits quietly behind all of this. When someone does not believe they are worthy of friendship, they unconsciously sabotage opportunities to build it. They may downplay their own opinions, avoid initiating conversations, or assume that other people are only being polite rather than genuinely interested. This creates a painful paradox. The very belief that they are unlikable becomes the reason they never let anyone close enough to prove otherwise. The mind essentially builds evidence for a story it already believes, filtering out kindness and magnifying anything that looks like indifference. Modern life adds another layer to this struggle. We now live in a world reshaped by digital communication. Where past generations built friendships through shared physical spaces, neighborhoods, extended family gatherings, casual encounters at local shops, today's social world often exists behind screens. Texting has replaced spontaneous conversation. Likes and comments have replaced eye contact and shared laughter. While digital connection has its benefits, it has also created a strange irony. We are more connected than ever, yet loneliness rates continue to rise across nearly every age group. For people who already struggle with in-person interaction, this digital shift can deepen isolation rather than solve it, offering the illusion of connection without its emotional depth. There is also the psychological toll of comparison. Social media constantly presents curated snapshots of other people's lives, groups of friends laughing together, celebrations, inside jokes captured in photos. For someone who is already isolated, these images can trigger a quiet but corrosive belief that everyone else has figured out friendship except them. This comparison does not just create sadness, it reinforces avoidance. Why put yourself out there? The mind reasons, when everyone else seems to already belong somewhere you do not. What this comparison hides, of course, is that most people online are also curating, also lonelier than they appear, also quietly wondering why connection feels harder than it used to. Overthinking is another silent barrier. Many people who struggle socially are highly self-aware, sometimes to their own detriment. Before a conversation even begins, their mind is already running simulations. What if I say something awkward? What if there is a silence? What if they do not like me? This mental rehearsal, meant to protect against embarrassment, often becomes the very thing that causes it. The brain becomes so occupied with self-monitoring that natural, spontaneous connection becomes nearly impossible. Ironically, the harder someone tries to appear likable, the more distant and guarded they can come across. This overthinking does not stop once the conversation ends either. Long after an interaction is over, many people replay it in their heads, searching for mistakes and imagined slights, a habit that keeps the next social encounter feeling even more threatening than the last. For some, past trauma plays an even deeper role. Experiences of betrayal, whether from a close friend, a family member, or a romantic partner, can create long-lasting emotional caution. The mind learns to associate vulnerability with pain. Even when someone consciously wants closeness, an unconscious alarm system activates the moment intimacy begins to grow, pushing them to create distance before they can be hurt again. This is not weakness. It is the brain doing exactly what it was trained to do: protect against a wound it has already experienced once. Interestingly, psychologists have found that the skills required for friendship are not always intuitive. They are learned. Things like reading social cues, knowing when to speak and when to listen, understanding unspoken social rules, these develop through practice and exposure. Children who had fewer opportunities for social interaction, whether due to shyness, family circumstances, or frequent relocation, sometimes miss out on this natural practice. As adults, they may find themselves lacking a skill set that seems to come effortlessly to others, not because they are incapable, but because they simply were never given the same repeated opportunities to build it. Like any skill, however, this can still be developed later in life, though it often requires patience and a willingness to feel clumsy before feeling capable. Understanding the psychology behind social struggle also changes how we, as a society, should view it. Someone who seems distant, awkward, or hard to reach is not necessarily uninterested in connection. Often, they are fighting an internal battle invisible to everyone around them, one shaped by early experiences, sensitive nervous systems, and quiet fears of rejection. A little patience, a little warmth, an invitation extended without pressure, these can mean more than most people realize. Sometimes the simple act of continuing to show up for someone, even when they seem hesitant to open up, becomes the very thing that finally teaches them that connection does not always have to hurt. In the end, the inability to easily make friends is rarely about a lack of desire for connection. It is about the invisible architecture of the mind, shaped by childhood, reinforced by experience, and challenged further by a rapidly changing social world. But every wall built by pain can, with time, understanding, and courage, be softened. And in that softening lies the possibility of something many people quietly long for: to finally feel like they belong.